Hey everyone, welcome back to More Memories, and we're continuing on with the Caribbean Adventure travel scrapbook. So moving back, getting a little tongue-tied. We just completed Jamaica, and so now I'm moving into our next port of call, which was Grand Cayman, Georgetown, Grand Cayman, part of the Cayman Islands. So we're going to do a little bit of a different thing today, where similar to the multi-pocket page where we were inserting that into Jamaica, we're going to kind of create a 12 by 12 peekaboo pocket in a way by using the 12 by 12 top loading pocket pages. But first off, I want to kind of walk through the virtual crop sketch from November 2025, the first one here, that I use as my title page for Grand Cayman, and some of the materials I used and what I did. So we've got our 12 by 12 layout. On the sides here, right, we've got a 1.5 by 4 inch piece, and what I did was, using the molten lava paper, I just tore 1.5 by 4, two 1.5 by 4 strips here. I did not use a full strip there to save some of that paper. We have a 9 by 11 insert page with borders at the top and bottom and embellishments around, a 6 by 4 photo, 4 by 4, two 4 by 4s, and some title and journaling here as well. So here's what I had done, and some of you might have seen this already as one of my kind of previews to the whole series that I had released. And so let's take a little bit of a closer look here. What did I do? Right, I'm using paper from Molten Lava's Island Waters Molten Lava, which is a foiled on one side, and then I'm using a print from Tropic Time. I'm using this particular kind of soft corally pink, and I used Shell Shimmer, as well as a print from the Paradise Found collection, which was an advisor exclusive collection, to create the colors that I was primarily focusing on here. Because to me, Grand Cayman comes to mind. It's just kind of something that happens for me. I just kind of start associating colors with certain things, people, places, things, whatever. And so for me, with Grand Cayman, my mind kept associating this color palette of this neutral kind of cream that we get with the Spargo pages, with coral, kind of very, very soft coral type pinks, and teal, turquoise. So that's kind of where I landed. I used these two border punches, the cruise ship border punch, which was part of a promo this past year in 2025. I believe it was around March 2025, part of the Boat Life collection. And then the coral border punch, which was an advisor exclusive with the Paradise Found collection. I'm gonna get these out of the way. Right. And in addition to that, of course, I had my tearing tool. We can see here I used the tearing tool on the Tropic Time print. Here's my Shell Shimmer that I just ripped using the edge of my the aluminum ruler. That's the word I'm looking for. Like I had done in some other videos. I inked the edges around. I also did inking around the edges of the coral here and the cruise ship at the top there. And so what I had done at the top here was I wanted the cruise ship in white, but I wanted to add the element of the water piece here, and I was needing to pull in some of the teal, that island watercolor, at both the top and the bottom to even it out. So what I did is I punched in the molten lava paper, I punched the cruise ship, and then what I did was that I took that part, and actually I can show you quick right now with just a scrap. I'm just gonna punch a couple of rows so you get the idea. So I had my punch out, and what I looked at was I wanted to try to find a way to match this scallop part of the punch of the water. So what I did was I looked to my cutting tools here. So and I found that the scallop decorative blade for the trimmer actually matches or aligns with this scallop here in the punch. So what I did was quite simply, I did a scallop cut to cut off the boats, as well as kind of in this middle area here. So I'll try to zoom in for that for you here. So I had aligned this kind of middle spot here on my cutting mat using that cutting grid line there, with my scallop blade in, and I went along and scallop cut there to get that piece. So then what I had done then was I had the piece, so I have my boat that was already pre-punched in white, and what I would have had is two cuts with the scallop edge here, because I also went along and did here to get that cut out in the scallop, and then I overlaid it in that kind of middle area, and then along the bottom to give that illusion of the waves. And then of course I gave it a little dash of ink there. And so with this being my title page, I still need one little element left to kind of fully put it all together, but I will most likely have this be a peekaboo, because here's our ship, and here was us tendering from the ship over to Georgetown. So I'll have it'll be a peekaboo with probably some journaling on the inside. I'll have a cricket cut out of Grand Cayman here. And then I'll have probably a little bit of information about Grand Cayman, and then I have a wallet sized here of the kind of map of Georgetown that will sit in here as well. So I have that all ready to go. Well, almost ready to go. But the main focus of what today is looking at is actually, here's what we're going to recreate for kind of like a peekaboo pocket page in a way, because I had these wonderful pictures of our ship from the shore, and what I really liked was this rocky coastal line, and I really wanted to find a way to recreate this rock piece, kind of similar to what I did in the Half Moon Key, where I designed the page around almost like we were sitting at the beach looking out at everything. I kind of wanted to have that similar feel to the pages here, and so I did deviate a bit out of the tropical themed collections, and I looked towards some of my other papers, and Copper Canyon 2 kind of jumped out at me with this marble print, which is really, really nice. And then I was trying to figure out, well, how can I make that rock appearance with paper? So we're going to walk through that piece as well. And so what I had used here were, I used one of the brown gradient best hits papers, as well as another paper from the Copper Canyon pack, or Copper Canyon 2 pack, sorry. So I used both of these prints. This was from the brown gradient best hits. This is from the Copper Canyon 2. And what I had done was I used my Cloud Chain BMC to punch out some strips relatively around. I kind of varied it a little bit. I didn't have a rhyme or reason. I just kind of varied it to be around somewhere between, I believe, like 1.5 inches to around around 2.5, give or take 1/8 of an inch or so. And then I had inked around, and I also took my tweezers, and I'll show this technique as well, that I kind of distressed the edges around this as well to kind of give more of a rock feel. And that's the strip I'll show you guys. Okay, so I have all these pre-ready, and then what I had done for the other page was after I just kind of ripped random sections, I then crumpled them up to then give them more texture, more of that rockiness type of feel. And that's what I worked with to create this piece. So we're going to recreate that next page, but we got to do a couple of things first. I'm going to put this to the side. So I thought about using just a normal top-loading pocket page to, I'm going to adhere it along the jeeping here so that it becomes kind of like a big peekaboo pocket. It'll flip open, the other side will be there, and then this front top side will be kind of the other pictures of Grand Cayman that we were in. I also had thought, well, I could just use the standard Spargo page to do the same thing. I could score it along and then adhere, and it would really be the same thing. I wouldn't have to necessarily do anything else. So those are two options. Why am I picking the pocket page? That's a good question. I don't know if I really know. There's something that says just use the pocket page. So that's what I'm going to do. So that's the first thing we've got to cut off this jeeping. So we'll do that next. As I was picking papers, how did I pick those papers? It was really just kind of trial and error. What did I think looked good? Here's another print that I had that I considered that's a non-Creative Memories paper. This is from the Copper Canyon 2 again. And so as I was considering all of these, I just kind of went with what's going to look the best with the marble color, and then of course the shell shimmer that I also did a border for. So I just landed on these two. I felt like these also give me a great palette to kind of keep staying neutral to add other elements or other pops of color, like like these little, I don't know what these are called in real life, but they're on the rocks. So for these, I just used an older CM tool. That's the Galaxy Micro Maker. So it's just a little mini punch. I use this, I don't know, splatter, whatever you would call it, I guess. And I just punched out a couple of them in like the canary paper, in one of the prints from Paradise Found, and some shell shimmer, gave them some ink, and just kind of played around with where they would look good. So I have some of those buried around here. I'll have to dig them out when we get to that part, but let's get going on doing this page. So I'm going to use this standard page, but I need to cut off this jeeping, and I need to make sure I've got my straight blade in, which is now somewhere. Here we go. All right. And so I'm just going to make, it's very simple. I'm just gonna line this up, that edge of the jeeping to that cut line. I'm gonna use my cut guide to make sure that my blade is gonna go where I want it to, because I don't want to cut into the jeeping at all. I just want to get that blade right where it meets the paper or the page. And then we do the same thing on this side. Okay, so now I still got my 12 by 12 page. That is essentially almost like a designer paper is how I'm going to treat this now. So the next, we're going to finish the tearing for our marble, just because there might be some new people joining. They might not be fully caught up with all of us, so I'm just going to do that real quick. And I'm just going to, it's been a while since I had these pages ready, so I got to re-measure my 9. Okay. So this, in this middle part is, I believe, it's a 9 by 9. The marble print is 9 by 9, and then the shell border, which I just ripped strips of that shell shimmer to adhere as well, so that kind of gives it an extra 1/4 inch around, so it's around a 9 1/4 by 9 1/4. So let's get this going. Got my tearing tool, insert my paper in the middle because I want to rip this way. Gonna get my paper lined up here. So I'm going to bring my tearing tool over to 9 inches. At the top, 3 inches at the bottom on my work mat. And I'm placing it where the curve is just at the inch mark. There we go. And then I'm just going to pull and tear along the edge of the tool. So I'm just tearing up and over to the right along the edge of that tear tool so that I get that shape. Then I'm going to take my rich cocoa ink and I'm going to ink that side. It's kind of getting a little dry. I got to replace it. So I'm just kind of going along the edge and I'm doing this kind of technique where I want a little bit of it to come along off the edge, just to kind of give that feel of like parchmenty, antiqued paper or so. We can kind of see in some spots how it's coming away, further in from the edge, and that's just the effect that I'm looking for. So I'm just angling my ink pad toward that top peak here, just angling it almost like I'm covering some of that past the edge, and I'm just swiping down. Okay. Then I'm going to get my shell pieces as well. As you can see, I did the same on those. I'm going to do that one on here. Same technique. I want a little bit of overlay onto the shell beyond the edge of the paper. And again, this is most likely working this way because this ink pad is getting a bit dried out. And so it's gotten a little worn too, so that's probably why. If you're using a fresh one, you might kind of become a bit startled at how much ink will come out if you try this part. So you might want to try using a blending brush first before you do any of that. So next we have to get these strips adhered. Just making sure I got scissors. I'm not doing scissors because I didn't want to. You could certainly rip out a 9 1/4 by 9 1/4 in the shell, or whatever other accent paper you want to put on. I just didn't want to use all that shell up. I wanted to conserve some of that paper. So that's why I did strips. They're just probably about a 1 inch strip or so. And so now it's just kind of a matter of lining them up really well. And just kind of making the border look as seamless as it could be. So I'm just lining up the best pieces at this point. Probably would work well there. The best bet might be this one here. I'll just finagle a little bit of the border. And a little bit here. All right. It's a little bit off. Let me get that a little bit tighter. There we go. So now I can clean this up, you know, in very easy ways. So like here, right, I might just try to go along where that grip is. And there you can barely tell. This doesn't really need anything other than maybe a little extra adhesive so it stays put. This one, let's see, what am I gonna do with this one? This one's going to, I'm gonna rip this top part here. And then I'm gonna rip behind that so that way. And a little extra adhesive so it sticks. And then this one, I'm gonna do the same thing for the top one here. I'm going to rip that, and then this one I'm gonna rip here. So again, it's just kind of what looks best is what I went with. I'm not gonna need these. This way. Now I'm gonna clean it up a little bit with my ink in any spots that might just need a little extra inking from making those edges different. And I'm good to go there. All right. So then I'm gonna get my Spargo page. I'll get my other one that I have completed already, just because I tend to do this. I tend to use them to help match up my placement. So then we get some adhesive on here. All right. And so I'm going to come in around, if we're using the matte guideline, or the matte, you know, the lines here, I'm kind of coming in at the top around 11.5 inches, roughly, right? And along the side here, about a 1/2 inch in where the edge, where my finger is here, the edge there, kind of, I'm just eyeballing that. Because again, this is going to be in a pocket page, so I don't have that jeeping to guide me a bit more. So I'm just having to eyeball it a little bit, and that's okay. I don't mind doing that. it here. All right, so now we need to recreate that rock at the bottom. So let's get our rock pieces, and actually what I wanted to show you was how I distressed the edging here. So obviously there's different ways you can do that. If you have a distressing tool, go for it. What I just did was I used tweezers, regular tweezers, and I closed them, and then I literally just kind of pushed them up against the edges as best I could, just to kind of give a little distressed bit to it. You might have to kind of get your finger in to kind of keep it from kind of just folding as you do this. But I just kind of push up along the edge like this. So I will say this is very tedious, and my hand cramped for most of the time, well, all of the time. So definitely, you know, it's not necessarily a technique that everybody might like to use, or maybe should use if you've got a lot of, you know, muscle hand concerns. And then I just inked the edges lightly a little bit, just to kind of help that match in a bit. Okay. And then all I did was start ripping, or actually you could crumple first if you wanted, then carefully open it back up, and then just make some random rips and tears into pieces. So then do the same with the light colored one. Just carefully reopen it up. But again, if it kind of rips, well, you know, we're ripping it anyway. So. And I'm going to go ahead and do the other two. I'm not going to need all of these pieces. That's okay. Because I'm actually going to extend this onto the other pages as well. So I'm going to need those pieces for the other two pages. So it's all good. But I want to make sure I have pieces that I'm going to need or want while I do the while I create this. And of course, if you're not interested in all this destruction of the paper, you know, that's okay. It's not an aesthetic for everybody. You don't have to do the ripping and the crunching and all that and the distressing. You could do the cloud chain BMC and you know, cut some sections and kind of trim them at the edges with the BMC to have clean cut edges, and then you could find a way to you know, mix and match them around, and if you wanted some extra dimension, you could use foam squares as well. So if you're thinking I can't do this because I don't want to rip and tear my paper and crunch it and everything, you don't have to do all that. There are ways around that. So next up, I want to get some of the pieces that I'm going to need to accent. I just forgot to pull them out before I started. So, just gonna get them out here. And get them off to the side so that they're there. Alright. Okay, so I want to have this be a mirrored image, right? So I'm going to kind of start in this corner and come up, and I'm coming up probably around to the 4-inch mark or so. So on this side, around the 8-inch mark, and just kind of curving it along the edge. So I'm just going to find kind of pieces that will do that and just kind of fit into those spaces. And if I don't have them, then I'm going to make them. So maybe this one kind of goes in the corner there. Maybe you kind of come up and help make that shape some more. And so I'm just going to start putting it together. I'm not going to overthink this, mainly because if I start overthinking it, you know what happens then? Nothing. And if we've learned anything from King Lear, it's that nothing comes of nothing. So let's not do that, shall we? Okay. See, already I'm off to a great start. I'm getting that in there, that curve that I'm looking for in there as well. I might take this piece and rip it in half, because I'm going to want some thinner pieces along the bottom here. And I might do the same with actually this might be fine, just as is. I think that'll work. Maybe this piece I'll tear in half because I want to get some light ones in here a bit more now. Go along the bottom here. Just gonna tuck it a little bit there. Let's see. What else I got going on here? I'm gonna rip this one in half. I think I'm gonna go like that. And this, you know, it's gonna hang over, so I'm just gonna rip that little bit off there. I need to add a little bit more here, so I'm gonna rip this one in half. I'll come over here, maybe something like that will work. Need a little bit something there. So let's just tear off what I need. I just put adhesive on my finger. That's always fun. All right, and then I'll just tuck it in here. Now I can compare, see if I'm kind of liking, that, which I think I kind of am, actually. Okay, so then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to get my precision point adhesive, and then I'm gonna add these little, whatever those are, spikes, I don't know. There's some type of C thing. So, yeah. All right, so I've got some of them here on my mat. I'm gonna use. And so I'm just gonna kind of randomly put them in places and just kind of see if I like where I've put them. So I'm just dry fitting right now. And if you're new to scrapbooking and you're not sure what that means, dry fitting is just what I'm doing right now. It's that process of I am putting together the components of my page, but I'm not putting any adhesive on them yet because I want to make sure what I'm doing is what I'm gonna like, and that's where I want them. So I can make any, tweaks, I can make any changes before, before I decide to adhere them down. I got one more shell here, and trying to think where, well, maybe over here because I don't have any right there, or I could go in the corner here. Yeah, cool. So the precision point adhesive, really great tool. It's just liquid glue in here, and all I'm gonna do is get some of that glue on the back of the punch out here, and then I'm going to put it right back where I had it, and I'm going to get it down and let it dry. It takes about 30 seconds to dry, so I don't have to do a whole heck of a lot. And I'm really kind of oozing here. I don't know, it's unusual for me. Usually I can't get the adhesive to come out. Now I forget where I had this one. I think it was coming somewhere around here, wasn't it? Yeah. And it's blue when it comes out, but it will dry clear, so don't worry if you kind of get, you know, extra oozing out anywhere or anything. It will dry clear. Oop. There we go. And I'm splattering everywhere, honestly. It's very unusual for me. Like I said, usually I can't get this to start flowing. So I'm letting that dry a bit. And actually, I want a little bit more brown on my shell pinks here, so, well, actually on everything. So I'm just gonna let that glue dry a little. And then since this ink pad is getting a little bit drier, this will work fine. I'm just gonna take that tip and graze it along just lightly to get a little ink on it. Like I mentioned, if you're using a brand new one, you might not want to do it this way. You might want to ink the pieces with a inking blending brush first before doing this. Actually, I'm going to come to my other page with a little touch up. Alright, so we're going to set these aside, well, just this page aside, because now we're going to connect our peekaboo pocket. Or, well, I'm calling it a peekaboo, it's not really peekaboo. We're going to connect our top-loading pocket page to basically make a 12 by 12 peekaboo. Okay, and I just left this in here so that you could see the pocket page itself. So what I'm going to do is I want it to open this way. So I have to adhere this jeeping along the right side. I'm not going to need these staples. So I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm going to gently work them out of the jeeping. And they do come out. You just want to be, you know, gentle and careful. And then make sure that you get that staple in the garbage, your little garbage can, wherever you have that, in case you got kids or fur babies running around. We don't want staples in people's hands or paws. This one's a little tougher. That's okay. I'm going to use Max tape because I don't want this to come off. So if you don't have Max tape, you can certainly use the permanent. That'll work as well. I wouldn't really use Repo, even though it becomes permanent after, you know, so long. I mean, the nature of repositional is that it can be repositioned. So I wouldn't necessarily use Repo tape here. If you have max strength tape runner, use that. If not, you could use the permanent one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my max tape runner and run it along the jeeping edge here. I'm just going to get that going. And then I'm going to take my top loading pocket page here and I'm going to adhere it, line it up, and adhere it down. Okay. Make sure that was something I forgot to mention. Make sure that you've got the top on the top. Okay, so now, right, I can swap this out. I can slide my page in. Slide my page in now. If it's going to slide in, there we go. Right, and so then as I'm going through my album, random piece there. Right, when I turn this page at the top, right, I will have my Grand Cayman pictures with the other side, but then I'll have this neat little feature where I can pull this open, and I'm going to have all of these fantastic shots of us walking along the coastline in Georgetown, Grand Cayman. So I haven't fully decided on picture placement fully, but I am basically aiming around this. So here I have my pictures double matted with bright white cardstock and terrestrial teal cardstock, and I inked the edges of those with the rich cocoa again to kind of give an antique-y type of feel to that edge. And the decorative blade that I used is called Victorian. It is a retired decorative blade now, but some advisors may still have this one. So this was available, and then they had discontinued it about a year or two ago, and they replaced it with Colonial, and Pinking also came out at that time. So they retired Victorian. But I just kind of, I don't know, something about Georgetown, Grand Cayman, right, the British Isles and influence and everything, just kind of said, use Victorian. I don't know. I can't always explain why I do what I do. I just do. So here we have that 2-page spread that mimics a peekaboo for 12 by 12 page using our top loading pocket pages and standard page. And again, you don't have to use the standard page. You could use other designer papers as well, right, if you wanted to. So hope you enjoyed. Hope this was useful, helpful. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Ask your advisors. You can feel free to reach out to me. I'm always happy to help. If you need anything, supplies or anything, links are in the description. And looking ahead, we'll probably either be finishing the Grand Cayman pages, or I might do those kind of off to the side and move on to Cozumel, which was our next port of call, Cozumel, Mexico. So we'll kind of see where the next video takes us. But anyways, thanks for joining again, and as always, happy scrapping.